Welcome back to Beyond HR, where we explore how AI is reshaping the human side of work. I'm Shveta Malhan.
And I'm Jeff Wellstead. Shveta, this is going to be an interesting one. What is quiz for you? What is the one most universally dreaded task for any manager?
That's easy. I would say it's having to tell a well intentioned employee, someone you genuinely like in your team, that their performance isn't meeting expectations. I mean, I'm sure it's a conversation filled with anxiety, not just for the manager, but for the person involved, all parties involved.
Absolutely, exactly. And it's interesting. Like the research shows that most managers feel completely unprepared for this. Right. And there was a Gallup poll that found something like, if I remember correctly, the Gallup poll found only 26% of employees strongly agree that their manager's feedback helps them actually do better work. So it's just, it's just like this built up horrible tension about like, oh gosh, what are they going to say, to me, and what am I going to say back, and how is this going to work? And it just has nothing to do with continuous improvements. Look, that's a huge gap. And so today, I think this is what we need to tackle head on. What we're going to do is we're going to show folks, how AI is becoming a really powerful coaching tool, a virtual kind of practice space for managers to learn how to lead, these tough conversations with both
Yeah. That indeed is a huge gap. What we'll try and do is a live demo, and we'll take a common performance issue and use a GPT model. I'm going to use Chat GPT here, but this is not, the demo can be replicated in any GPT model that our audience chooses to go with, whether it's Gemini, whether it's Grok, whether it's Perplexity. And the intent here is to transform a manager's blunt feedback into a balanced, growth focused conversation. So stick around, because this is more than just a script. It's about building better, more resilient leaders using AI.
Indeed. Absolutely. Shweta, let's set the stage. Okay. The problem isn't that managers are bad people. Not all of them anyway. They're often promoted, for their sins, for being typically the best individual contributors, or possibly the more senior people on the team, or for whatever reason, but it typically isn't because they've been vetted as being the best people leaders and managers. So as far as I've read anyway, the data is really kind of, pretty stark on this, but they're not hired or promoted, if you will, into these roles because they know how to handle difficult emotions.
That's right. And it really is that. And talking about data, there was a research that I read from DDI that shows that 57% of employees have left a job because of their manager. And a huge reason for this is a breakdown in communication. That's what experts call an empathy gap. And one study that I was looking into found that, and I think this study was done by a company called IHHP, and they found that while 92% of CEOs feel that they lead with empathy, but if you look at that from the lens of the employees, only 50% employees agree with that statement. So managers think that they're being empathetic, but that is not landing on the other side the same way.
And I have to say, in my own experience, and I'm sure in your experience as an HR leader, we came across that pretty regularly. Look, I mean, all of this has a very direct, kind of business cost associated with it. Gallup, who's good at this sort of thing, famously states that managers count for at least 70% of the variance in employee engagement scores. Right, so disengaged employees are obviously typically less productive and much more likely to leave. And so then you're suddenly hitting retention issues, which is arguably one of the biggest expenses that organizations can experience. And managers, frankly, therefore kind of avoid tough conversations, or they handle them poorly. It just creates an awkward moment that ultimately kind of ends up being a $1,000, sometimes multi-million-dollar retention problem.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, half the organizations don't even calculate the cost of turnover in their organization. But to your point, empathy is the core issue. How do we scale empathy? How do we give our managers the tools to close that communication gap, especially when HR business partners are stretched thin and they can't sit in every meeting to do personalized coaching for managers as they engage in these day-to-day conversations with their team members?
No, spot on. And it's not like you can hold a bunch of training sessions and anticipate absolutely every reaction or kind of teach people how to kind of write things in a certain way. It's all so very unique to each circumstance. And that's really why, where I think AI as sort of an intellectual co-pilot or coach co-pilot, whatever you want to think of it as, it really kind of comes in. It's not really about replacing the manager. This is an augmentation, not by any stretch an automation. God, I can only imagine what that would look like. But
Yeah.
really kind of an augmentation in terms of giving managers a very safe place to practice and prepare. It's a bit like a flight simulator, a lot safer to do in the confines of your office or doing it from home versus being right in front of the employee at the time.
Yeah. So let's create a flight simulator for a coaching conversation and see how much AI can help improve the conversation between the manager and their employee in a simulated environment. So we are going to do a demo using Chat GPT, and let's pick a common scenario. Let's say Alex is a junior data analyst in our team. He's eager, hardworking, and has a great attitude. But maybe you play the manager role, and what you've noticed is that Alex is not delivering as per expectations. So Alex's reports are consistently delivered late and often contain errors. And that means that you have to spend extra time cleaning up before they can be sent to the stakeholders. Not only are you spending time, but the delivery to the stakeholders is also being impacted. So in this situation, Jeff, if you're playing not your true leadership hat, because I'm sure you will handle this conversation very differently. But let's say you're wearing a manager hat of a new manager who hasn't really, had battle scars and lived experience to solve this problem in an efficient way, and they have to give feedback. What would your gut feedback be in this situation where you're promoted as a manager because you were really good at doing your job?
So I'm going to play the manager, and I'm going to type in my kind of gut feel in terms of feedback for into our AI tool for Alex. Right, here we go. So here's what I want to give as feedback. Alex, your reports are always late and full of mistakes. I need you to be more careful and to meet your deadlines.
Okay,
And
wow.
yeah, which weirdly, like, it doesn't sound bad when I say it right in my own head, but it's like I go back and I reread that and I'm like, that's a bit harsh. It's a bit
Yeah.
stark, you
So,
know.
let's build on that. So you have feedback in mind, but at the same time, you have doubt that it might not land effectively. And this is where the AI GPT version comes in as your co-pilot in this situation. So let's throw this as a challenge to AI and see what it recommends. So I'm going to take your feedback and I'm going to just add a little bit context here to that feedback, where I am telling our chat GPT that I have a team member called Alex. They are eager, hardworking, and have a great attitude. And I also articulate the problem that I'm facing with Alex. And I also tell GPT that I want to give them feedback. And here it is, exactly what you said. Alex, your reports are always late and full of mistakes, and I need you to be more careful to meet your deadlines. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to ask GPT, how is this feedback going to land? So I'm simulating the situation before I actually play it out live with Alex as a manager.
Okay.
So I'm going to say, how do you think this feedback will land? Let's see what GPT tells me or tells us.
Right. Okay. So this is a rather different version. So it's interesting because you asked ChatGPT to kind of adopt a methodology, didn't you? For
No,
this new.
so far I've not
Oh,
given
you've not
GPT
said anything
nothing.
about that. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
So
Okay.
I'm just I have a feedback. I had a doubt that this might not land well. So I'm using AI to tell me whether how will this land?
I got you. Before we actually kind of
Yeah.
modify things, I think.
Yeah.
Got you. Interesting.
So
Okay.
you see here, this is real time coaching
Yeah,
moment
yeah.
that GPT is giving me. It's telling me based on what we told it that based on your feedback, what will work, what will not work.
Right.
It's telling us that Words like always and full of mistakes are exaggeration, no acknowledgement of the effort or strengths, and that may make Alex feel unappreciated. And it's a vague ask. What do we mean by be more careful, right? So it's hard to execute or implement this feedback. But it didn't stop there. I think the GPT took the ownership on coaching us even further, and it's telling us that you can use a model called SBI, Situation Behavior Impact, and reframe the feedback. So it's giving us what the feedback looks like and why this reframed feedback works better. Because I'm not reading the whole thing, but essentially, or let's read it now.
Yeah, let me read it. Let me read it if I can do. So it says, so it's reframe the feedback, and it says, Alex, I really appreciate your energy and the effort you put into your work. It's clear you care and want to do well. Wow, that's, I mean, in and of itself, that's powerful, right? What a wonderful way of saying it. It acknowledges Alex's passion for, for his own sense of personal excellence anyway. I wanted to talk about the recent reports you submitted. For example, the Q2 update. That's perfect. Like, give exact examples, right? Don't just kind of like brush it past and say, generally speaking. So, for example, the Q2 update and the weekly team metrics, they've sometimes come in past the deadline and included a few errors like missing data points or formatted inconsistencies. So this creates a bit of a crunch because I then have to kind of spend extra time reviewing and fixing them before, they go out to stakeholders, which puts pressure on both of us. So I'd like us to figure out, you know, how we can improve the timeliness and the accuracy. Would it help in the review? Sorry, let me say, what does it say? Would it help to build in a review checkpoint together before the deadline? Brilliant idea. Or are there blockers on your side that I can help you remove? That's also awesome. It's that notion of I'm here to help. I'm not here to scold. You know what I mean? I'm not better than you, and I'm not saying that you're a bad person. In fact, I'm acknowledging broadly you are a great person, and that's
Yeah.
awesome. But there are these two little things that we need to kind of fix because it is affecting both of us. Wow, that's a complete reset. I love that.
Yeah. And this is where like GPT picked up this SBI situation behavior impact model. And if your organization has another model, this is where if we teach managers that every time you give feedback, use SBI, or there's another model called SOAK model, which stands for specific, objective, actionable, and kind, then the managers can already like proactively engage with GPT and ask it to reframe the feedback they're trying to give using that methodology. Maybe let's try another methodology.
Yeah, sure.
So let me see. I'm going to again redo the same feedback context that we did, and we'll keep the same chat thread, or we can start a new one. Doesn't really matter. And this time, instead of asking it how will it land, I'll say, can you help me help? So this is okay. So let's give it a role. In fact, we'll say, give me a second. So we will say, um, you be an executive coach specializing in empathetic conversations. Yeah, don't judge my spellings. I have the power of
Not saying a word.
trying. And the best part is, GPT also doesn't care about
Yeah, it
spellings.
doesn't. It just kind of goes right through. It's like, no big deal. I got this.
Yeah. Use the, let's say, SOAK framework and coach me through this. Let's see what it does this time around.
See, I'm using GPT all wrong. Okay, clearly. My prompts, I feel like I have to mansplain everything to Chat GPT and like just overdo it with the context setting and the role, kind of direction and things of that nature. You always ever type like one sentence and you get like these beautiful outputs. It's
Yeah,
brilliant.
also that's a really good point, Jeff, because sometimes we have to be really detailed in our prompt. It depends on what we are trying to solve for. But at other times, we have to also remember that large language models have access to so much information that if we just point them and direct them. Like, we don't have to tell it how to be an executive coach. The moment we tell it that play that role, it has access to so much information in its training model that it can pull the right information to play that role for us. So sometimes it's just directing it what simply versus like engineering the prompt to the nth degree.
Yeah, and kind of trusting that actually ChatGPT is, through the trillions and trillions of interactions it's had so far, has actually put together a pretty decent thinking, capability around this. It doesn't need to be taught from the beginning. Okay, here we go.
So first of all, it's helping us understand what is the SOAK method,
That's
state the
useful.
situation, observe the impact, ask for their perspective, and kindle a path forward.
Oh, I like that.
So now it's actually coaching me through each of the steps.
Right. So, okay. So S, state the situation. So it basically starts, kind of coaches us basically. This is huge. It kind of basically says, right, avoid silly absolute terms like always or full of mistakes and tones basically, that are going to light people up and make them more emotive. And it just completely reframes it for you. This is great. Observe the impact. Oh, this is interesting. Right.
So you see, it's telling us each of these stages, giving us a prompt to think about how to apply that particular part of the framework and giving us some examples. But we don't have to stop here. If we are truly engaged with the GPT as a learner, this is where, if I'm curious and I want to say, oh, let me just play with it, watch, and let me know if thoughts jump in your mind as well. I'm going to play with it and say, oh, I like this framework, never used it before. Let's role play.
Nice one. Good idea.
You give me a situation, ask me a question one at a time, wait for me to respond, evaluate my response, and give me feedback. Let's see what it does here.
Drum roll. Here we go. Oh, this is cool. It's interesting. This has gotten so much better over the course of time, in terms of its ability to understand what you're on about, to kind of totally slip into the same slipstream you're into, and then immediately kind of take you up this, kind of previously rocky, very steep path that you were worried about, and just completely just, calm your nerves about it and say, I've got this. We're gonna do this together. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
So, okay, here we go. Got it.
So it's given us a scenario. Let's say Alex just submitted the monthly stakeholder report 2 days late. When you opened it, there were two inconsistencies in the chart and one missing section. You had to work late to fix it before sending to your leadership team. So the question it has for us is, how would you open this conversation with Alex using specific and neutral language to describe the situation without sounding accusatory? So I'm going to put you in the hot seat and I'm going to ask you to state the situation. And this time I'm going to put the voice mode on so that when you talk, it listens to you instead of me having to type. Want to try it that way?
Sure. Yeah. Let's give it a go.
Okay, let's allow.
Okay. So this is me stating the situation. Alex, I think I've spoken to you about this before, but the fact that you basically turned the report in 2 days late and turned it in with some, omissions, and actually you kind of like completely missed out on one of the key graphs. That really put me in a hard situation, right? I ended up having to stay super late, that night to kind of sort it out. And frankly, I found that really frustrating.
Let's see if it captured. Oh, it did. It worked. Yeah.
Technology. Okay, here we
Maybe
go.
not. Maybe not.
Maybe not. Did it not? Voice
No,
chat
it
ended.
didn't. I didn't. I got super
Oh,
excited for no reason. It should have, though.
it should have.
Maybe, yeah, maybe because we are using a mic here. Hmm. Do you want to try it again?
Yeah, happy to. Okay, here's my feedback. So, in the situation, Alex, you turned your report in a couple of days late, and when you did turn it in, and I went through it, I found a couple of errors in your calculations, and I actually saw there was a complete. It's not registering, is it?
It's not.
Now, when you
Okay.
speak, just for fun,
I will write it out. And it doesn't have to be perfect because we just want to see how it responds. So let's say, so Alex, you turned in your reports 2 days late. Go for it, Jeff. I'll transcribe. You had
Yeah,
some.
and when you did, I found two errors, at least two errors, and a complete chart missing from your submission.
That made me spend
Yeah.
extra effort.
And hours in the office trying to correct it before I could send it onwards.
Correct it. So let's just see. It might. Let's see how GPT coaches us through this. Oh, €2.
Euros. Interesting. Okay, so it's basically said, great, you're being direct and your intent is clear, which is important in feedback conversations, but let's refine this for tone and impact,
Yeah.
keeping neutrality and psychological safety in mind. Here's a breakdown. We'll go back up a sec.
Sorry.
It's all right. Here's a breakdown of what worked and what could improve. Okay, here we go.
Yeah. And it's giving us suggestions too. Try
It's
something
amazing.
like
People spend thousands of dollars on coaches that used to do this. You know what I mean? Come to your office and sit down with you and spend an hour. This is incredible.
yep.
Really, really good stuff.
And we can spend as much time as we want. Like if you have an executive coach, imagine how expensive it is and how limited time you have with them to refine your leadership skills. So we've just picked a simple scenario of how to give feedback using a methodology, but this is where you can put any situation and practice in a safe environment with chat gpt or gemini or whichever large language model we are using to practice.
And you know what I find interesting about this, Shweta, is the fact that I feel like I'm absorbing the information. I feel like I'm being taught, and I'm taking myself, if you will, through sort of a learning curve. And what's interesting about it is I don't feel the tension of being in a room, potentially with a stranger, a coach of some description who's maybe been assigned to me, or whom I've never worked with before. And suddenly, I'm feeling judged,
Right.
by that person. Like, Jeff, you did it wrong. And
Yeah.
in my head, I'm like, oh God, now this person thinks I'm not good. Immediately, certain, bias wheels and filters start to kick in. And it's like, I'm not now absorbing the information. Whereas the GPT model, it was just beautifully well written, non-judgmental. It was super factual and very kind of like straight to the point, but without being harsh or, you know what I mean? Or kind
Yeah.
of like setting me off and making me feel like I'm inadequate in some way.
Yeah.
Um, and that's I know it sounds ridiculous, right? But I guess we're all kind of weirdly children running around in adult bodies psychologically sometimes. But when certain triggers like that happen, you start to shut down. You start to
Right.
stop, or you stop absorbing information that you really frankly need. At least I do. I should speak for myself. But I love the way it just kind of formatted that. It was just like, hey, almost there. But when you said this is sort of potentially, the way it'll be interpreted. And I was like, cool, I can deal with that. I get
Yep.
that. Yeah, really good. Really
Yep.
good.
And now imagine the effort learning and development teams put in to create these leadership development programs. I am not saying there's no need for a leadership development program, but now we can think of how AI can play a little bit of that role in what we struggled with in the past, where transfer of learning was happening because our learning was not timely, it was not relevant, it was not happening in the moment of need. But here with AI as our companion, that learning can happen in moment of need. L&D people can curate these executive coach bots which are trained with certain methodologies and frameworks and give it to all the employees so that they can practice with the same bot, and there's a consistent framework or methodologies that is being used across the organization. So it makes their life so much more easier too, and makes leadership development program, lifting a leadership development program so much more quicker, and there's better transfer of learning.
It's funny you said that, right? Because literally just today, an article came by my inbox from Josh Person again. Always ever kind of like quote the Josh Person thing, and it was really interesting and slightly inflammatory in that he basically said the L&D function is about to go through the most incredible upheaval from AI than any other kind of function as yet. I mean, recruitment was always ever threatening to do that, but He said L&D in particular. And I was like, okay, well, what's he on about this time? Because there's always ever been a lot of excitement about how AI can really augment the learning experience.
Yeah.
But what he was saying is, we have always ever taken such a pedantic, kind of classical, old school, uh,
Yeah.
unintended approach to education, which is, well, you're here, you're in this job, you're in this time. It's time for you to go through this training, and you're going to have to sit here in the context of nothing because none of this maybe has ever happened to you as yet, but maybe you're starting to prepare for a new move and this might be helpful. But you need to go through these 5 training courses online. And we're going to kind of monitor it. We've been really clever and we've kept like the segments short, and we're just going to monitor by quizzing you how you're doing through this. So and people, especially the Gen Z generation, looking at this stuff that was written by, a Gen X individual, right? Who's like a couple of generations ahead of them. And they're just like, oh, this is horrific. I mean, it's not going to stick. It's going to be a complete and utter waste of my time. Surely there must be a way, right, that we can kind of like put this in the hands of people so that they can kind of experience it in real time. And to your point, kind of learn in the flow of work. And that's like Josh Person's favorite phrase. And he kept talking about that. But he said that's what's happening. He's saying he's seeing this all over the place, that people are incorporating real time, voice driven
Yeah.
AI and saying, I'm stuck in this spot. I don't know what to do. Please help. Please, kind of deploy this model. And the LLM or whatever has been pre trained, right?
Yeah.
To kind of deal with all these things and already has all of these incredible, methodologies in place that the organization has adopted. So knows basically how to format the learning back to the individual and to make it fun and to make sure you understood it. And are you okay with this? And do you want to try a couple of different examples? No judgment, no human telling you you're bad, you're not smart, you're not getting this. It's just you and your voice and the machine. And
That's right.
incredible how it comes back. So yeah.
That's right. And in this situation, AI is not having the conversation for the manager, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
all
not like
right.
placing the human, whichever stakeholder, whether we look at L&D people preparing an learning experience, or in this case, manager who's going through a learning experience on their own. We're not replacing the manager here. So AI just prepared the manager to have a better conversation. It built confidence and provided clear, empathetic path forward. This isn't about outsourcing humanity, it's about practicing it. So, to your earlier point, it gives a safe space for leaders to practice without feeling judged. And at the end, the delivery is still in the hand of the manager.
Yeah. No, spot on, spot on. And frankly, you walk away feeling better. You walk away feeling smarter. You walk away feeling like, you know what? I really feel much more confident in my role right now. So let's now connect back to the business. Imagine the difference, right? In the employee experience in terms of this. And the employee experience, I'm not just saying that lightly. I know it's gotten a lot of light treatment because wouldn't it be nice if people all felt good at work? This is more an issue of, does this place feel like I belong to it and that it belongs to me? Do we have values aligned? Do we feel good about things? Am I respected? Importantly, is there psychological safety? All of those components, they're big. So in the first scenario, right, Alex leaves feeling, I imagine, horribly demotivated. And probably starts, to polish up his resume, dust it off, and start making a few phone calls. And in the second, scenario, he feels a completely different thing. He starts feeling supported and focused on a solution. And that's really how you drive engagement and retention. Really, it's just literally, we talk about moments that matter. That's a moment that matters. It may not be a huge moment for us as the manager. It is a
Yeah.
massive moment for the employee because they walk around feeling like, gosh, either I just got branded as being a bad employee and now I'm in trouble and I'm going to have to work twice as hard to prove myself, blah, blah, blah. Or I'm actually being seen, I'm being understood. And yeah, I did those things. I do turn stuff in late and I don't necessarily, probably pay attention from a detail perspective like I should do in all cases. That's on me. I got to go sort that out. And I really appreciate the manager kind of giving me a bit of a second chance, right? And saying, hey, I see these things. Let me help you, kind of thing. That's exactly the way you want to have it.
Exactly. And companies are spending thousands on leadership training programs, like we said earlier, but the learning often fades. And an AI coach on demand, 24 by 7, a manager can use it at any time, like be it at night before they prepare for the next day, and reinforce the skills to your point in the moment of need. That's an incredible ROI for the organization as well. And this is where the organization needs to educate their leaders on what frameworks and approaches to use, but the practice can be done in GPT. And you can even ask, like we did, ask GPT to do simulations and role plays. I mean, imagine the effort saved in creating those safe, simulated role play kind of scenarios.
Yeah, I mean that's absolutely huge, and just it just occurred to me too. So you don't create a meme for yourself that suddenly ends up all over social media. What you never want to do, of course, is read from your phone or from your computer screen what ChatGPT told you to say. This is obviously to be incorporated, to be absorbed, and for you to kind of practice it in your head so that when the moment does come, you're ready to rock and roll. But yeah, look, I mean, if you're the CHRO, right, and you're listening, the action here is, I think, really clear. I think it's time to start piloting these tools. Time to start with a small group of managers, of new managers in particular. Give them the AI copilot GPT, and we can show you how to kind of pull together a GPT and kind of train it on your own data and measure the impact, right? Track their confidence levels through surveys or a quick phone call. Look at their engagement and the performance data for their teams. And you'll likely see that, better prepared managers lead to much more effective, more engaged teams.
Yeah, it's about creating a culture where feedback is seen not as a threat, but as an investment in an employee's growth. And great way to do it using a simulator.
So today we saw how AI can really move beyond just data and analytics to coach one of the most human skills of all, empathy. And it's interesting and funny you say that because a lot of people have always ever said that's the one thing the computers will never have. They won't have empathy. But you know what they do have? They have the ability to train people to call it out. You know what I mean? And they can describe it beautifully and they can put it in a context that you understand. So it's not like they are without knowledge on the subject. So empathy is critical, right? And it's all about turning a manager's anxiety into confident, compassionate leadership. This is what resonates with people.
Yep. And by giving managers a safe space to practice, we're not just improving conversations. To your earlier point, we are improving retention, we are improving engagement, and overall health of the organization.
Absolutely. And look, if this episode has sparked an idea, share it with your leadership team. Don't forget to follow and to subscribe Beyond HR. We're going to continue, Shweta and I, digging deep into all these scenarios and how it is we're going to kind of like make these things play out, help these things play out for you.
Yeah. And until next time, keep looking beyond.